Hi guys. So today we're going to talk about fears and how you can overcome them and how your fears might be holding you back from moving on. So there's a lot of links between your mind and your body, specifically related to fears and your beliefs. And if we're not changing those, it can be hard for your body to you move on. Everything you want is on the other side of that fear. So inaction is the product of fear. So I remember when I was younger, it was grade 9, and I had this speech at school, and I was scared. I was so frightened to give this speech. I would call in school, I would make excuses, I would do anything to try and avoid this speech. There was a girl I liked, I won't go into it. Anyhow, one day I had the realization that I wasn't going to get any better at speaking if I didn't give a speech. So I had to overcome those fears, and obviously I have a stutter, so that was very challenging for me. I've met people who have stutters and they still don't speak, and their stutter has never progressed because of it. So overcoming your fears is a good way to move forwards, and it's very liberating. It felt absolutely amazing afterwards. So just something to think about. Now, mind-body connection is very fascinating. So there was a study done on maids in America, and they interviewed the maids. They took their blood pressure, BMI, heart rate, cholesterol. They took all these markers, and they were asking them about their levels of activity and exercise. All the maids said they were doing absolutely no exercise, and they educated them about the risks of not exercising regularly on your heart, on your lungs, on your health, on everything. After that, they educated them about how much exercise they were actually doing at work each day. So they were actually saying you burn X amount of calories, you do the equivalent of you this much running, yada, yada, yada. Within a month, their blood pressure dropped, cholesterol dropped, they lost weight, all because they started to believe that they were exercising at work. So it's quite fascinating stuff, and they didn't change anything. So your beliefs will change your body and how your body responds. If you keep thinking, my back's messed up, I'll never get better. If you're having these beliefs, they're going to hold you back. So if you think about my hand as your brain, you have your spinal cord, which goes up to your midbrain, which is the animalistic limbic brain. Then we have this cortex that wraps over the top and can inhibit this animalistic brain. So the animalistic brain is where like arguments come from, where you want to run away, where you want to fight or confront people. You get the increased heart rate, you just get really scared. The cortex is where intention comes from, and that's where our thinking and new patterns can occur. So this is where we want to train our beliefs. Now, it's not that easy because there's a lot of things that can trigger this, and this is where stress comes from. So the animalistic brain will trigger cortisol release, and it just sort of gets everything real riled up, and it's quite hard to come from this into this. So we have two memory systems. We have implicit memory and explicit memory. Explicit memory is remembering what you did last week, what you had for breakfast. It's that chronology of time. Implicit memory is related to emotion. For example, whenever I do a public speak or speak in front of people or speak to a person I'm not that confident with, I have this trigger of fear and anxiety from previous memories. Not that I actually recall the memory, but it triggers the fear, which causes this. So whenever I speak, I have to become intention and mindfulness. So I'm constantly working on it. And that's the same with you. You have to realize this is a constant practice. Work out that muscle, get stronger. Your pain can act as a bit of a loop as well. So some things like my stuttering, your memories can trigger emotion, which can trigger this your pain loop. And that your pain loop can also act as a little bit like getting a song in your head. The more you think about the song, the more you play it in your head, the stronger it'll get. So how do we overcome the fear? First of all, you have to play to win rather than playing not to lose. So you wouldn't enter a sports match with the intention of not losing it, because chances are you're going to lose that. You have to think about win and visualize that success. With anxiety, you have to try and create an alternative story to the one your brain has already made. So anxiety is quite interesting because your brain will make up a story and then your body will begin reacting as if that's already happening. So that was what was happening with me when I spoke, is I would have this anxiety that those blocks, the embarrassment, everything was already happening. My heart would start racing. I would be in this animalistic brain. The ironic thing is that once you're in this brain, you can't change any of those pathways because you have to be mindful and intentional. So it's quite fascinating. We attract what we fear. So if you fear something, chances are you're going to attract that into your life. So try and avoid the fears, think about your positivity, and if you ever slip up, try not to be negative about it or angry with yourself, because that's just going to be feeding the fears and growing the weeds. So there's a lot to it. Intentional practice is the very beginning. So I'd like you to end with this exercise. And so write down 2 things that you think your fear has cost you in your life, whether that's an event or it's prevented you from acting on a relationship, or it might have broken down a relationship. Try to think about 2 or 3 things where fear has held you back. It could have been last week, it could have been 10 years ago. Now reflect on 2 things that you're afraid of in the future. So think about a couple of things that you've had anxieties about and write down why you have those anxieties. After that, try to create an alternative story. So you visualize an alternative to what you're afraid of. What you should find is as you visualize these stories, it'll weaken your anxieties about what you're afraid of. This is a really nice tool, and we're going to run over a few other tools to try to help envision your success to help you move forward.